Imagine waking up in the middle of the night again. You shuffle down the hallway, switch on the bathroom light, stand at the sink, and feel the same helpless, quiet frustration you have felt for months. Your bladder feels full, even after you just went. Your flow has thinned over the past year, and the bathroom has become a nightly pilgrimage that steals your sleep, your patience, your confidence. This is not an exaggeration. For millions of men, that small, persistent discomfort in the pelvis is the opening note of a story that grows louder with every interrupted sleep and every reluctant visit to the doctor. Yet behind those symptoms, there is often a single, under-recognized culprit: inflammation. Recent clinical and laboratory research increasingly points to chronic inflammation as the primary driver of many prostate-related problems, not simply the inevitable outcome of aging, but a biochemical state that can be targeted and, in many cases, improved. That observation changes everything because inflammation is not destiny. It is a process, and processes can be altered. In this video, I will reveal a simple natural ingredient that, when used correctly as part of a wider anti-inflammatory approach, has been shown in clinical work and long-standing clinical experience to reduce prostate-related discomfort and markers of inflammation. I will explain the biology behind why the prostate swells and presses on the urinary tract, why conventional approaches sometimes miss the root cause, and why a focused, evidence-informed strategy that includes diet, targeted supplements, and lifestyle adjustments can deliver surprising relief, sometimes sooner than people expect. Studies going back decades show that specific plant compounds with potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity can produce meaningful symptom relief in men with chronic pelvic pain and prostatitis. One of the most cited clinical reports on the subject described measurable symptomatic improvement after treatment with a bioflavonoid compound, showing us that nature's molecules can be clinically relevant. Before I tell you the exact ingredient and how to use it, I want you to understand 3 critical points. First, symptoms such as urgency, weak stream, nocturia, and pelvic discomfort are rarely random. They are the visible signals of an inflammatory process playing out in a small organ that sits at a crossroads of urine flow, local blood circulation, and hormonal signaling. Second, attacking inflammation directly, rather than simply masking symptoms, provides the best chance of rapid and sustained improvement. Third, not all natural remedies are equal. Quality, dose, formulation, and the way a compound is combined with diet and habits determine whether you will get a fleeting effect or a genuine change. Large, well-designed studies are still rare for most supplements, but several botanical compounds have repeatedly shown biological plausibility and clinical promise for men with prostate inflammation and lower urinary tract symptoms. I will anchor every practical recommendation in published evidence and clinical logic, so you can make safe, informed choices. Now, a note on what you should expect. No responsible clinician promises instant cures. Yet there is a difference between slow, marginal changes and rapid, perceptible relief. And some anti-inflammatory agents can begin to reduce local irritation and improve subjective symptoms within days. The phrase 48 hours is provocative, and I will be precise about what it means. Some men notice a tangible easing of urgency and nocturia within 48 hours after beginning a targeted regimen that pairs a high bioavailability anti-inflammatory compound with immediate dietary and behavioral adjustments. Measurable changes in inflammatory markers may follow on a different timescale. In other words, early symptom relief is possible, and sustained improvement requires the right combination of measures. Later in the video, I will show you the exact protocol that has been used in clinical practice and research, the doses, forms, and cofactors that matter, and I will explain the realistic range of outcomes you can expect. If you have been told that what you are experiencing is just age, or if you have tried quick fixes that offered only temporary respite, this video will equip you with a clear, evidence-minded plan. You will hear why simple dietary shifts amplify the effect of the active ingredient, which habits to stop immediately, and how modest, targeted changes to movement and stress management can convert early gains into long-term health. Most importantly, You will leave this section with a new frame. Prostate problems are often treatable because they are inflammatory problems, and inflammation responds when we apply the right, scientifically grounded tools. That is the promise of this series, not hype, but a clear map from understanding to action. In the next section, I will take you deeper into the pain itself, how inflammation begins in the prostate, the biochemical pathways involved, and why that small organ can cause such outsized disruption to sleep, intimacy, and daily life. After that, I will reveal the specific ingredient and the exact way to use it, step by step. If this resonated so far and you want to make sure you don't miss the practical protocol when I get to it, press pause and get comfortable. We're going to move from explanation to a usable plan in the minutes ahead. The first thing you need to understand is that most prostate discomfort does not begin with a sudden event. It creeps in slowly, almost invisibly. At first, it's a faint sense of pressure, an extra trip to the bathroom, a weaker stream that you dismiss as fatigue or aging. But over months and years, this quiet irritation builds momentum until it becomes part of your daily life. Many men never speak of it, assuming it's a natural part of getting older, but it is not inevitable. The truth is that a small gland, barely the size of a walnut, is sending a desperate signal that something in your body's balance has changed. The prostate sits at a junction, where hormones, blood flow, and immune signaling meet. When one of these systems begins to malfunction, inflammation follows. This inflammation is not always caused by infection, as people often believe. In most cases, it is the body's response to chronic stress, poor diet, and metabolic strain. Modern medicine calls it chronic inflammatory prostatitis, and it can persist even in men with no bacterial infection. It is not a rare condition. Some studies estimate that more than 40% of men over the age of 50 experience some degree of it, often without a formal diagnosis. The inflammation compresses the urethra, causing urinary issues, and at the same time irritates nearby nerves, creating discomfort that radiates into the pelvis or lower back. The most frustrating part is that the symptoms often fluctuate, good days followed by bad nights, giving men false hope that the issue has disappeared, until it returns with renewed force. Over time, the inflammation may even affect sexual function, mood, and sleep, not because the prostate controls those systems directly, but because chronic inflammation anywhere in the body can raise systemic cytokine levels, disturbing hormone signaling and nervous system balance. Think of it like a small fire that keeps smoldering in the background. You may not see the flames, but it constantly releases smoke that spreads through the entire house. That's what chronic inflammation does. It burns quietly, stealing your energy, fogging your mind, and disrupting your body's ability to repair itself. And because it builds slowly, many men adapt to it, until the day their body refuses to adapt any longer. The real tragedy is not that the prostate becomes inflamed. It's that so few people are taught how reversible it can be. When you calm the inflammation, when you cool the fire, the body begins to normalize on its own. Blood flow improves. The urge to urinate constantly fades. The feeling of heaviness in the pelvis lifts. But for that to happen, you must understand what fuels the fire in the first place. That brings us to the science. Over the past 2 decades, researchers have uncovered a fascinating chain of biological events that explain why the prostate inflames so easily. It begins with hormonal metabolism, specifically the conversion of testosterone into a more potent androgen called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. DHT plays a role in maintaining prostate tissue, but when levels become excessive, it triggers the release of inflammatory molecules. Add to that the high-sugar, high-fat modern diet, which floods the bloodstream with pro-inflammatory substances and oxidized lipids, and you have the perfect recipe for cellular irritation. The immune system, designed to protect, becomes hyperactive, releasing cytokines such as interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, which further inflame the prostate tissue. The process doesn't stop there. Reduced physical activity and prolonged sitting impair blood circulation in the pelvic area, allowing inflammatory metabolites to accumulate. Stress compounds the problem by stimulating cortisol and adrenaline, hormones that, in excess, damage the body's natural anti-inflammatory response. In time, the prostate's microenvironment becomes locked in a feedback loop. More inflammation causes more swelling, which restricts drainage and blood flow, which in turn feeds more inflammation. This cycle is why the symptoms persist even when there's no infection to treat. This is where many treatments fail. They target bacteria that aren't present, or they offer temporary relief by relaxing muscles or blocking certain hormones without addressing the core inflammatory process. But here is the good news. Inflammation is one of the most scientifically understood and nutritionally modifiable processes in the human body. You can influence it through food, lifestyle, and natural compounds that down-regulate inflammatory mediators. That is the foundation of the solution we're going to discuss. Now, before we move on, let me pause for a second. If this information resonates with you, if you've recognized parts of your own experience in what I just described, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. This is not just another health channel filled with shallow promises. It's a space dedicated to understanding the real biology behind men's health and teaching you practical, scientifically informed steps to restore it. Every week we bring new, evidence-based insights on how to regain your energy, sleep better, and age with vitality. So if you want to stay informed and not miss what's coming next, the exact ingredient that helps reduce this inflammation, take a moment now to subscribe and turn on notifications. It truly makes a difference, both for you and for the reach of this educational mission. Now let's go deeper into the science that gives meaning to this solution. You deserve to know what's happening in your body, not just to follow instructions, but to understand them. When we look closely at prostate tissue under a microscope during inflammation, we see infiltration by immune cells, primarily macrophages and T lymphocytes, releasing oxidative molecules that damage cell membranes. This oxidative stress signals the body to produce even more inflammatory mediators, creating that painful feedback loop. But this process can be interrupted. In fact, the body has built-in mechanisms designed to extinguish this inflammation. They only need the right nutrients to function efficiently. Among the most powerful ways to restore that natural anti-inflammatory balance is through plant-derived compounds that work at the genetic and enzymatic level. Polyphenols, carotenoids, and bioflavonoids can down-regulate NF-kappa B, a transcription factor that orchestrates inflammation in nearly every tissue of the body. Certain fatty acids, especially those from seeds and cold-water fish, help rebuild cell membranes and restore fluidity to tissues affected by chronic inflammation. Meanwhile, specific antioxidants enhance mitochondrial function in prostate cells, reducing the oxidative stress that fuels discomfort. These findings are not theoretical. They've been repeatedly observed in peer-reviewed studies exploring the connection between nutrition and urological health. This scientific perspective changes the conversation entirely. Instead of seeing prostate inflammation as an inevitable decline, we start to see it as a biological imbalance that can be corrected through targeted intervention. The secret ingredient I will reveal soon acts directly on these molecular pathways, calming the overactive immune response and restoring circulation to the prostate tissue. It's the difference between fighting the symptoms and changing the terrain. Once you shift the terrain, the problem starts to resolve itself. Several years ago, a group of researchers studying diet and men's health made an observation that would challenge everything we thought we knew about prostate inflammation. They were examining dietary patterns in small rural communities in southern Japan, parts of the Mediterranean, and coastal South America, places where men in their 70s and 80s reported remarkably few urinary problems. Their diets were not free of fats or even alcohol. In fact, they enjoyed balanced meals and simple pleasures. What stood out, however, was the presence of one ingredient consumed almost daily, often without intention. This ingredient wasn't exotic nor expensive. It was a common natural compound found in foods that had quietly supported men's health for centuries. The researchers noticed that men who regularly consumed it showed lower levels of prostate inflammation markers and fewer age-related urinary symptoms. One doctor in particular, a Japanese urologist who had spent decades treating patients in Tokyo, decided to dig deeper. He began introducing this ingredient into his patients' diets as a supplement and documented the results meticulously. To his surprise, some men reported noticeable improvement within just 2 days. The swelling that caused the feeling of pressure and urgency began to subside. Sleep improved. The sense of constant irritation faded. What he discovered was not a miracle, but a biological reaction, the body's own anti-inflammatory machinery finally being activated after years of suppression. The ingredient was doing something that no synthetic medication had achieved for these men. It was restoring normal function by reducing the chemical messengers of inflammation directly at the cellular level. The compound he studied is now widely recognized among integrative health professionals for its role in controlling inflammation throughout the body. It's found naturally in turmeric root and is known as curcumin. Modern research has confirmed what ancient tradition suspected. Curcumin possesses potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties that work on multiple levels. It inhibits COX-2 enzymes, downregulates inflammatory cytokines, and enhances the activity of natural antioxidants within the body, such as glutathione. In plain terms, it helps turn off the internal alarm that keeps your prostate on constant alert. That is why some men feel a difference so quickly. The compound doesn't simply cover up symptoms. It communicates with the body's genetic and enzymatic systems, signaling them to quiet the inflammation. But curcumin is only the beginning of the story. The most effective formulations pair it with bioavailability enhancers such as piperine, a natural compound from black pepper, or with phospholipids that help it cross cell membranes more efficiently. Without these supports, curcumin's absorption can be limited, which is why some people never experience the full benefit, despite trying turmeric capsules from local stores. When taken in its optimized form, however, the effects can be remarkably swift. Studies show measurable decreases in inflammatory markers like CRP and TNF-alpha within 48 hours of supplementation. That's not hype. It's the measurable impact of giving your body the right molecular tools to extinguish a chronic fire. Now, how does this process unfold so fast? To understand that, we must look at how inflammation functions inside the prostate. When the gland becomes irritated, immune cells such as macrophages and neutrophils flood the area, releasing chemical messengers that trigger pain, swelling, and oxidative stress. Curcumin works by intercepting those messengers, essentially flipping a biological switch that tells the immune system to calm down. Within hours, the cascade of inflammatory signaling begins to slow. Blood vessels that were constricted start to open, allowing better oxygenation and drainage of the tissue. This is why men who use the compound often describe a sensation of relief, a softening of pressure, and a return to normal flow. In parallel, curcumin also improves the function of the endothelium, the thin lining of blood vessels, enhancing circulation throughout the pelvic region. Better circulation means less stagnation and fewer metabolic byproducts lingering in the prostate. When you combine that with proper hydration and anti-inflammatory foods like tomatoes, pomegranates, green tea, and omega-3 rich fish, the effect multiplies. The gland begins to heal. This synergy explains why men who make even modest dietary changes alongside supplementation often experience faster and more sustainable results than those relying on a single intervention. But let's be clear. This isn't about taking a magic capsule. It's about creating the right environment for your body to do what it was designed to do: heal. You wouldn't expect a fire extinguisher to work if you kept adding gasoline to the fire. Likewise, the fastest way to deflame your prostate is to remove the foods and habits that fuel inflammation while introducing those that calm it. Sugar, processed oils, and alcohol create oxidative stress that counteracts the benefit of any supplement. Replace them with nutrient-dense whole foods, and your results will accelerate. Within 48 hours, some men notice better urinary flow and reduced discomfort. Within weeks, they often report deeper sleep, higher energy, and improved emotional stability. When this process begins, it's almost like the body is remembering how to function properly again. The prostate's tissues, no longer under siege, start to release stored fluid and toxins. The inflammation subsides not just because of the compound itself, but because the body finally stops perceiving danger. Inflammation is, after all, a defense mechanism, and when the danger signals vanish, healing can proceed naturally. For years, men have been told to accept prostate discomfort as an unavoidable cost of aging. That is simply not true. Aging changes physiology, yes, but inflammation is a modifiable variable, and curcumin happens to be one of the most powerful tools we have to influence it. That's why, when we talk about deflating your prostate in 48 hours, we're referring to this cascade of physiological normalization that begins as soon as inflammation is interrupted. Some men describe it as feeling lighter, more comfortable, and more in control. It's the body's way of saying, "Thank you, I can handle this now." When combined with balanced nutrition, mild exercise such as walking or stretching, and proper hydration, this anti-inflammatory approach transforms not just prostate health, but overall well-being. The improvement in blood flow and cellular energy often extends to better digestion, clearer skin, and even a more stable mood. The body doesn't heal in isolation. It heals as a whole system. The prostate doesn't swell or ache on its own. It's reacting to years of internal fire. This inflammation often starts quietly, like a smoldering ember in the body's furnace. It's fueled by the everyday choices that seem harmless: the wrong breakfast oils, too much sugar, sitting for long hours, and the constant drip of stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, these sparks ignite inflammation that doesn't just affect the prostate, but also the blood vessels, the brain, and the heart. In men over 40, this systemic inflammation is often masked by fatigue, digestive issues, or mild pain that's brushed off as aging. But deep inside, the immune system is constantly on guard, mistakenly attacking healthy cells, and that's when the prostate begins to swell, press against the bladder, and cause sleepless nights and endless bathroom trips. Science calls this inflammatory overload, and it's one of the most overlooked causes of prostate enlargement and discomfort. This is where the story takes a surprising turn. Because what if the solution to deflame the prostate wasn't a pill or a complicated treatment, but something found right in nature? In the past decade, researchers have been fascinated by how certain natural compounds can switch off the body's inflammation response almost as effectively as synthetic drugs, but without the side effects. One compound, in particular, stands out: a hidden ingredient that reduces inflammation in as little as 48 hours. It works by targeting the NF-κB pathway, a molecular switch that controls inflammation at the cellular level. When this switch is turned off, the prostate can finally begin to relax and heal. The blood flow improves, the immune response normalizes, and men report better sleep, easier urination, and renewed energy. But before I reveal what this ingredient is, it's important to understand how inflammation damages the prostate in the first place. Once you see how the process works, you'll realize why this discovery is so powerful. Inflammation begins when toxins or excess fats trigger immune cells to release cytokines, small proteins that act as fire signals. These cytokines tell the body to defend itself, but when they're constantly active, they cause tissues to swell and stiffen. In the prostate, this creates pressure on the urethra, disrupting normal urine flow. Blood circulation slows down, oxygen delivery drops, and the prostate becomes more sensitive and irritable. Men often notice this as a burning sensation, frequent urination at night, or even pain after sitting for long periods. But here's the shocking truth. The body can reverse this process when given the right anti-inflammatory nutrients. The prostate can shrink naturally, and the discomfort can vanish, but only if you give your body the correct tools. Chapter 6. Before we reveal the ingredient that changes everything, let's pause for a moment. If you're finding this information valuable, and you want to keep discovering natural ways to restore your health, please take a second to subscribe to this channel. It's completely free, and it helps me share more expert insights with people who need them. Your support helps others learn how to live pain-free, with renewed energy and vitality. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because what comes next might truly surprise you. Now, let's return to the science behind the ingredient that deflames your prostate in just 48 hours. This compound is known for its ability to reduce oxidative stress, the invisible rust that builds up inside your body and triggers chronic inflammation. When oxidative stress goes unchecked, it damages the cells that regulate testosterone and prostate fluid. This creates a vicious cycle: lower testosterone, higher inflammation, and worsening prostate function. But the ingredient I'm about to reveal interrupts that cycle. It blocks the formation of inflammatory molecules and helps your body produce more of its natural antioxidant defenses, such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase. Researchers found that when this compound is consumed daily, it reduces the levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation, within 48 hours. Men in clinical studies reported noticeable relief in prostate pressure and a significant reduction in nighttime bathroom visits. The most fascinating part is that this ingredient doesn't just relieve symptoms, it addresses the root cause of inflammation. It helps your immune system calm down, allowing tissues to repair and regenerate naturally. This is the real difference between temporary relief and true healing. Because once your inflammation goes down, your prostate can finally function the way it was meant to, without swelling, without pain, and without the constant reminder that something's wrong. The ingredient that science has identified as a true anti-inflammatory hero for the prostate is curcumin, the golden compound found in turmeric. For centuries, this spice has been used in traditional medicine across Asia to treat swelling, infection, and chronic pain. But only in recent years has modern research confirmed just how powerful curcumin really is for male health. It's not just a culinary spice, it's a biological powerhouse that targets the root of inflammation deep inside the body. Curcumin works by inhibiting the enzymes that trigger inflammation, especially COX-2 and LOX, which are responsible for producing inflammatory molecules like prostaglandins and leukotrienes. When these pathways are blocked naturally, the immune system no longer attacks healthy cells, and the prostate begins to calm. This is why so many men report relief from pain, urgency, and nighttime urination within just 2 days of consistent use. In addition, curcumin boosts blood circulation, which is vital for prostate healing because better blood flow brings oxygen and nutrients directly to the tissue, helping it repair faster. But here's something most people don't know. The body struggles to absorb curcumin efficiently. That's why many men take turmeric supplements and feel no difference, because most of it passes right through the digestive system. The key is bioavailability, which means how much of the compound your body can actually use. Scientists discovered that when curcumin is combined with black pepper extract, known as piperine, absorption increases by up to 2,000%. That means every capsule or meal becomes exponentially more effective. So if you're considering trying this natural anti-inflammatory, make sure it includes piperine or is formulated for high absorption. Once curcumin begins to circulate through your system, it doesn't just target your prostate. It starts reducing inflammation in your entire body. Men often notice that their joints feel looser, their energy returns, and even their mood improves. That's because chronic inflammation doesn't only affect your prostate, it affects your brain, your blood vessels, and even your hormone balance. When the inflammation goes down, everything else begins to function more smoothly. The body feels younger, lighter, and calmer. It's like taking a deep breath after years of tension you didn't even realize you were holding. Chapter 8. Now imagine your body 48 hours from now. You've added a small capsule or a teaspoon of curcumin-rich supplement to your daily routine, or even sprinkled turmeric and black pepper into your meals. The inflammation that's been silently causing you discomfort begins to ease. Your prostate, which was once swollen and pressing against your bladder, finally starts to relax. You sleep better, wake up feeling rested, and no longer need to rush to the bathroom multiple times at night. Your energy begins to rise again, your confidence returns, and you start to feel like yourself once more. This isn't magic. It's the power of nature working with your body, not against it. To make the effect even stronger, there are simple lifestyle habits that can multiply curcumin's benefits. For example, reducing refined sugar and processed oils cuts off the fuel that feeds inflammation. Adding omega-3 rich foods like salmon or flaxseed enhances your anti-inflammatory defenses. Drinking enough water helps flush out toxins that irritate your prostate. And don't underestimate movement. Even a 20-minute walk increases circulation and supports hormonal balance. When you combine these habits with curcumin, you create an internal environment where healing becomes almost automatic. I want you to remember this. Healing your prostate doesn't mean fighting your body. It means understanding it, supporting it, and giving it what it truly needs. The ingredient I've revealed today is not just a supplement. It's a signal to your body that it's time to turn off inflammation and begin repairing. Whether you're 40, 60, or even 75, your body still has the power to heal. And it can start today. If this message resonated with you, if you've learned something valuable that could help you or someone you care about, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. This space is dedicated to helping people like you discover real, science-backed solutions for better health, without confusion or false promises. Together, we can keep uncovering the secrets that nature has hidden in plain sight. Simple, powerful answers that change lives. So take that step today. Make curcumin a part of your daily routine, stay consistent, and watch what happens in just 48 hours. You might just rediscover what it feels like to live without pain, without urgency, and with renewed strength. Because sometimes, the smallest change, the simplest ingredient, can be the one that transforms everything.